our CSO Fireside Chat on managing Coherence, building an agile, resilient sales force, which will be moderated by Ms. Jessie Paul, Founder and Chief Executive Officer, Paul Writers. Let me also extend a very warm welcome to our Fireside Chat expert speakers. We have with us Dr. Suraj Bahirbani, President and Global Sales Head, Grasim Industries Limited, India. May I also welcome Mr. Prabhakar Venugopal, Director Sales, Hitachi Vantara, and a very warm welcome to Mr. Vimalendra Singh, Chief Sales Officer, Mahindra Lifespace Developers Limited. May I now hand over to Ms. Paul.
Thank you so much, Isha, and great to be here. And, it's a slightly different topic today. So what I really wanted to kick off with is that we have seen transformation at a pretty amazing rate, and every board I sit on is only discussing digital transformation, field force enablement, direct to consumer, things that like 18 months ago, most boards weren't even familiar with. So I just wanted to kind of kick this off with a question. Maybe Suraj can try this one, which is, how are you transforming your sales organizations for this new digital reality?
Yeah, so Jessie, I think first and foremost, we need to be very sensitive to the fact that our front-end sales teams, they have been impacted the most in terms of this new ways of working. The head office teams all have moved to work from home, but our front-end sales team, who are actually used to being very close with the customer, often at the customer's office or factories, have now need to learn how to sit at home and yet be digitally intimate with the customer. So I think this digital intimacy has become a very, very big thing right now as a skill that we need our front-end sales teams to, adhere to. So our first challenge was to actually handheld our front-end sales team to upskill themselves. Of course, we gave them the necessary IT infrastructure. All was upgraded of theirs. We launched a project called Project Samarthya, which is, capability building on how to use all these various kinds of digital platforms, because we need to recognize that not necessarily all our customers were on digital platforms, number one. And second, even if they were not necessarily on the same digital platform. So those kind of, it may sound very basic, but those kind of basic trainings also we had to quickly give to our sales teams. And of course, we had a lot of soft skills trainings on this entire digital intimacy that I'm talking about of our sales teams to connect with the customers. Now, once we make our front-end sales team very comfortable, it is only then that we can expect that we make our, customers comfortable in this new age and environment that we are living in. And therefore, we actually last year moved to a completely digitized CRM platform. Earlier, it was a mix of both, hard copies and soft copies, but now it is completely digital, so that on the mobile, our sales teams are completely empowered and have a full visibility, end-to-end visibility on each and every aspect of their dealings with every key account that they work on. I must say that while many of our plans were in place for a long period of time, it is COVID that actually accelerated our push and journey towards technology. Otherwise, I think all these things would have taken another couple of years, definitely, for adoption. So that is the first foundation that we built in. Second was creating a robust demand forecasting model. Now, of course, no demand forecasting model would have predicted COVID, but what it has enabled us was, and our sales teams, was to help our customers think a little bit more better and rationally. Otherwise, the danger was our customers who were not necessarily very savvy as far as, IT, big data is concerned, were, taking some rash decisions, cutting the orders because, they were coming under panic. Or for that matter, some of them felt that let us hoard a lot more raw materials currently. So I think that fine balance with the customers, also helping them demand forecast using big data, digital analytical tools to help them optimize inventory, both at their levels and our level. And finally, on supply chain, again, we moved to a completely, earlier we used to deliver X factory, now we deliver it at their doorstep. Thereby improving OTIFs, digital tracking of the entire trucks, which was earlier not happening because the customers did not have the wherewithal. Now, since we do it on their behalf, we're able to provide that service. So I think what we all began during the first phase of pandemic is going to really help us today, as we experience our, second phase of pandemic. And in closing, I would like to say to everybody, actually, please go a bit easy on your front-end sales teams today. Each one of them, either their own family member or someone in the ecosystem is impacted by COVID. So go easy on your deadlines, go easy on, the reports that we constantly demand of them. Go easy on that. We know sitting far off from the customers, we are very anxious to know what is happening on the ground. Just go easy on them. I think that will help our sales team much better during this period, and they will service our customers even more better in this period. So that's my thoughts, Jessie, on in this environment as we work on.
Yeah, it was actually very cool. And, if I didn't know you were a CSO, that almost talks like this talk was almost like a CIO, CTO kind of conversation. And I think that's one of the big changes that's happened over the last 1 year in terms of tech adoption and its integration into sales. But you touched upon something which I found pretty interesting. And I want to direct this to one of the other team members, which is, we've all had to get used to not being face-to-face with the customer and relying on tools. So maybe Prabhakar could add a little bit as to, when we do Zoom sales, which is a lot like what we do now, one of the constant complaints or concerns I hear is that, how do I build a relationship? I mean, what changes if I can't go and have a tea or a coffee with the customer? And how are you actually addressing that? Because I know a lot of people are struggling with this.
Yeah, that's very true, Jessie. And I represent an environment where it is a B2B engagement that we have. We need to engage with enterprise customers and provide solutions which are sometimes, running into multiple $1 million. And to do that on a Zoom is not going to be easy. You really need to be a super sales guy to do that work. So it is a challenge, and we face this challenge, as Suraj mentioned, last year when this pandemic hit us, we didn't know how we will cope and how we will learn. But 3 or 4 points which are key challenges that we faced. First one was on the Zoom call itself. There is something called as a video call etiquette. That itself had to be taught to the whole team, including me. We all need to go through a training program on do's and don'ts on a video call. How do you look professional on a video call? And how do you engage with the customer on a video call? How do you bring out your points in a way that the customer is engaged throughout the call? Otherwise, the biggest issue that we faced is customer will come on a call, he'll not be on video, and he'll be on mute. So you wouldn't know whether there is a person who exists on the other side or not. You will go through a half-an-hour presentation, probably to an empty room. And that is the reality. So you need to ensure that the other person is engaged. So that's the biggest challenge that we faced at the starting. And number two, as you rightly mentioned, we can't tell a customer, let's have a cup of coffee. You have to convey value in every interaction that you have with a customer. Because the customer was having a fatigue on the video calls. Most of the time, he's having every half an hour, there is a call happening. And, as Suraj mentioned, there is a pandemic at the background playing in the minds of the customer also. So you need to bring in your point very concisely and convey it to the customer in such a way that he sees that as a help that is being extended to him. And the third one that we were finding, which was difficult, is engaging with the customer itself. Because before that, engaging with the customer is going and meeting the customer in his office. Now, if you're not going to meet him and you are going to be at your place, social media need to come in, digital channels need to come in. And that's not easy for anyone. When somebody says, I have 20 years of experience in sales, in the new world, post-COVID first wave, you are as good as anyone else. You need to learn how to sell, because this is a different way of selling. Your 20 years of experience does not count here. So people have to learn how to use LinkedIn properly. How do I use my own internal digital channels to help me? How do I leverage my global teams to engage with the customer as one enlarged team. So these are all the challenges that we faced in Zoom sales, and we all went through this learning phase together in our company.
Thank you. I have a kind of follow-on question for you. With Suraj also talked about how everything is digital now, and in many ways, the consumer or the customer also has access to all of this data. So how has the role of sales also transformed? So one is the relationship you have to build differently, but the other is the guy has already got everything in sent beforehand, or he's looked at the supply chain or his whatever tool. So what's a value adding role that you find sales can offer?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And I don't think a simple answer exists here. But the way I perceive and we perceive in our company is the value that we bring in here is understanding a client environment. While the customer can get all the information in the social media, whether it is on the net or through any channel, the understanding of the customer environment and the solution that we could provide to the problem of the customer is key. So if I need to, because most of our customers are enterprise customers or leading banks or stock exchanges, we need to solve their problem. We need to ensure their systems are running, in spite of pandemic, no pandemic. It need to be up 24 by 365. What type of solution we could offer that can keep their systems running all the time? How can I ensure that their people, while they are at their home, their systems are up and running in their enterprise? Because the people at the data center or in their office, they're cut down to 25% levels, which is like one person need to manage 4 people's work. So I need to provide solution which will allow automation, AI, ML, that can bring in that level of efficiency. So the sales people are then ambassadors here who provide the solution to the customer. So when we engage with the customer, we start with the problem that they are facing and what solution we can provide. So that means we have to do a lot of homework upfront before we can go to the customer and seek that appointment with the customer. And the most important thing here is our communication with the customer need to be simple, because the customer can go and find the answer himself or herself, but the answer may not be simple. So it is left to us as a consultant, as a trusted advisor, to provide that information to the customer. And that is what we strive. And while it is unfortunate that the second wave is hitting us, the experience of first wave has made us more smarter now to provide this in a much better way to our customer. The customers are also now more evolved and they know what to expect and how to go about doing these things. And that's what the salespeople need to do. It's a challenge for them, and whoever can rise up to their challenge can become super performers. And that's what I've seen, Jessie.
That's great. And, you talk a lot about the customer has also evolved. And that's something else I wanted to touch upon, which is, see, when, like second wave has now started, so the customer has different priorities. Even 3 weeks ago, I know that a lot of companies had a different priority. So it's also, it keeps fluctuating in terms of, what do they think is economic outlook and all of that. So you very rightly said that the customer is changing almost every day, almost in terms of their outlook, and then how does sales deal with that? So I'm actually going to address this one to Vimalendra, whom we haven't heard yet, which is, do you see sales playing the role of the voice of the customer? And if yes, how are you able to take that and get the organization to react super fast?
Yeah. So good afternoon again, Jessie, and greetings to my fellow panelists, and good afternoon to all the viewers. I think as Suraj and Prabhakar has touched upon, a lot of the technology change has actually got hastened by the COVID experience. But in our perspective and giving the context of the sector in which I work, which is the housing sector, frankly, we are dealing in a product category which is one of the biggest ticket purchase for any individual, right, across the globe. And probably, if I may say, one of the most emotive purchase, because there are so many emotions which play a very active role. There are so many considerations. There is always this anxiety. There's so much of calculations. There's so many influencers who are there. So I think what I will say is we started our digital journey probably 6 months before COVID. And it was just a thought. It was just a thought because we said the pace at which India and the global consumers are adopting technology. Look at e-commerce, for instance. Who would have thought probably 7-8 years back that we'll be purchasing cloths also online? All the white goods also now are coming online. Earlier, we used to go to these shops and we used to try out and say, okay, unless I can feel the product, I will not buy it. So to that extent, there has been a behavior shift in the consumers because of this technology adoption. And the thought in our company was that if there is so much of adoption which is happening in other categories, what will happen if we probably give a digital experience or a digital buying experience to the consumers in real estate? And that was a big challenge because, of course, for home, as I said, people want to go to the physical side. They want to look at the sample apartment. They want to kind of touch and feel the windows, the doors, the kitchen, everything, and then take a call. So it was quite interesting, and we started it as an experiment. So we had a launch around now a little over 2 years back, where we said, okay, fine, let us provide the entire digital selling experience to our consumers, which means the application form is completely online. I will take the payments from the consumers completely online, and eliminate the entire physical process. Including even in the show apartment, while we had a physical option, even the show apartment, can I actually map it digitally? The entire 360 view, incorporating the latest technologies which are available on the AR VR side. And then we went to the market, and frankly, we were surprised. And I'm very happy to share the statistics. 86% of the transactions happened completely digitally. Who would have thought that in the real estate space, where the way of transactions was you write a check and you give it to the developer, was replaced by 86% online. And this was, again, the second insight was this was in the mid-income segment. It was not in the premium housing. This experiment was done in the mid-income segment, which kind of, again, tells us that probably many a times we underestimate the customers. I think the customers are way ahead of us in terms of technology adoption, in terms of their comfort with the technology, and because we started that particular pilot or initiative, and when the COVID hit us, I think we were in a fairly good space because to a very large extent the tech piece was already there. We had actually received a lot of the feedback from the consumers. We realized what was working, what was not working, and then we invested 3 more months. We actually upgraded that entire system. And during the lockdown itself, we did one more project launch. And this time we challenged ourselves and we said, forget physical, it has to be 100% digital. And again, it was superbly successful, though we brought low value homes to the market. But again, for somebody who is buying a first time home, even if it is valued at 15 lakhs, for him, that's a big ticket item. And all those customers, 100% of the transactions happened digitally. They have not gone to the site. They have not signed a physical paper. Entire, payment was through an integrated payment gateway. Application form was digital. So the contract, how do you, do this OTP authentication of terms and conditions, because that is relevant in every sector. And I think it was eye-opening for all of us in this particular segment. And of course, since then the technology adoption has become huge. So there were a lot of the learnings. We received a lot of the feedback during the calls. As Mr. Prabhakar said, it's quite a challenge, getting the customers to come on MS Teams or Zoom or Google calls, and they'll not switch on the video. They'll go on mute. And in face-to-face, you frankly can also judge what the customer is thinking, right? You across the table, you try and ascertain from the reaction of the customer, it is going fine, it's not going fine. But digital is a very different world. If the video is switched off, you frankly don't know what is happening on the other side. So it was quite interesting. And the calls were taken in.
If I may jump in, it's not only queues with the customer, it's also between our team members, right?
Yes,
when there are three of us talking to a customer, there are queues between us, but in a video call, we don't have that also.
True. Yeah. Very true. Very true. Thanks for calling it out.
Also. Thank you.
The other amazing thing is, sorry, Jessie, the calls, the customer, because it's technology, sometimes he's taking a call in the taxi, sometimes in the auto, sometimes he's in his living room, sometimes in the terrace. So again, a lot of these things are actually influencing his mindset or his ability or his desire to take a decision. So I think when you speak more and more with the customers, and now fairly the customers are taking calls completely through digital interactions, let it be even a 4 crore or a 5 crore apartment. So I think technology has played a big role in terms of the customers telling us what they want and how they want to deal with us. At the same time, for us as salespeople, and I agree with everything that Suraj and Prabhakar said in terms of training, upgrading, because obviously there's so much of nuances which go into the customer interaction. But I think we have learned a lot over the last 12 months. We have heard our customers, and hopefully we'll be able to, keep evolving and keep improving and be able to provide one day a digital experience which is equal to 100% substitute of physical experience. I think that's the way forward for us.
So I'm going to take that point and ask you one question, which all of you have kind of touched upon, which is, the skill sets required are different, right? And the customer also requires a different bunch of skill sets to benefit. But let's come back to the sales guy. And, when you don't need feet on street, one of the changes is that the best sales guy could technically sell to, more people and also not be bound by geographical boundaries. So if I take that context, what would you say makes a survivor salesperson or a champion salesperson in this new digitally transformed era? Any of you can take the question of, what makes a super salesperson in the new era?
Yeah. So if okay, I'll just go ahead briefly. See, I think the rules of engagement still are the same. Now, only thing is from a physical meeting, you're getting into this digital meeting, but still how you are able to establish that particular rapport, connect, credibility in the first 10 minutes, everything has become fast. Even on a digital call, earlier you had that freedom where you say, okay, you'll offer a physical cup of tea, coffee, and then you will talk and try and understand the consumer, try and give your perspective in those first 15, 20 minutes. Of course, here we don't have all those luxuries, but still, what kind of comfort or confidence you're able to give to the customer in the first 10 minutes of interaction, even today digitally is very, very important. At least we are seeing in our segment, because we should never underestimate a consumer's insights. And he has that ability to actually perceive a lot of the things, although he may not be physically present. So I think that starting 10 minutes digitally, and we have seen either you establish that rapport and take the discussion ahead for 1 hour, or pretty much the call gets over in the first 20 minutes and then you don't go ahead. So in my view, how articulate you are and how effectively you are able to position what you want this next 60 minutes to be like, when the consumer actually decides whether the discussion goes ahead or it doesn't go ahead.
We're basically saying that relationship element is a little shorter, but maybe the domain competency or the knowledge is higher. Would that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
Jessie, if I may add a couple of points here. At least in our domain, we do not have a super salesperson, but what is required here is teamwork, because when we are making this high value IT solution sales, it is important that as a team that we scale up and then able to impress the customer and make a sale. And a good salesperson today is a person who can leverage this extended team. As you rightly mentioned today, I can be in Mumbai and I can have somebody from Amsterdam joining me in a call, addressing the customer. And in case I need any help, the person in Amsterdam is going to pitch in. So a good sales guy is a guy who can bring in a team, make the team work in a synchronized fashion for solving the customer problem and closing the deal. That's one. And number two, the person need to be very well informed about the customer environment so that the person can be solution oriented. So these are the two which I feel are showing results, at least in our company. One, extending the leveraged team. Number two, understanding the customer environment and bringing in a solution approach. That is completely mandatory because relationship alone is not going to get us anywhere in the digital environment. Maybe Suraj wants to add something.
Yeah, I think very good question, Jessie. Earlier we were also very closed in our mindset that only the account manager can go and talk to the respective customers, and physical meeting was very, very important. Today, even during the course of the pandemic, we have actually gone ahead and done a big restructuring of our sales team. Ours is a global organization wherein 50% of the revenues come from international customers and clients. So we have now actually restructured the teams, managing different accounts, and all the handover takeover of accounts have also been happened online. I mean, the guys still remain in their respective countries. It's not that they have moved because of the COVID situation, but handling different geographies. And to Prabhakar's point, we've also now experienced the same. We are able to pull in expertise within the company, different expertise within the company, joining the call, making a pitch to the client. And we've been able to successfully crack many accounts only because of this. I think earlier cost considerations would have come into place. Can I fly in people from 3 different geographies just to have a 1-hour client meeting? Today, all that is, that is not there. And so I think it has opened up our minds as well in terms of understanding what could be the possibilities. And I'm sure even post this COVID era, this whole intelligent mix of online and offline, so that we can still have the cup of tea with them and yet bring in experts, globally into the conversation with the customer. That fine balance we will continue to make.
I think that's a great approach. And we're on the last 5 minutes. So I wanted to use that to kind of touch upon the topic, which is about agile sales, but also provide with giving a takeaway. So, and I know I didn't send this in my draft questions, so I'm springing this on you. But if you had to give one piece of advice based on the last 18 months, and given that we're back to uncertainty for at least the next 12 months, what is that one piece in terms of, if I had to build an agile sales organization, what's that one key piece of advice you would give to your fellow sales leaders?
I would say trust and delegate. I think we are still very poor delegators. We like to micromanage and control a lot. I think the element of trust and delegation would go in a long way to improve agility in our sales teams to act, respond to our customers much more faster. So those would be my piece of advice.
If I can go next, I would say, the most important thing at this point in time is client centricity. We need to keep in our mind that, our job is to keep the lights on for our customer. And anything and everything that we do in our organization at this point in time should be focused on whether this is going to help our client, and whatever step that we are taking, is it going to make it a little bit easier for them to run their operations. And that would help in taking whatever initiative that we are taking in our company. And that would be my 2 bits.
Okay.
Yeah. So I agree with both Prabhakar and Suraj. I'll just add, for agility in today's times over the next 12 months, I think what's very important is be nimble, be adaptive, and be innovative, because things are changing so frequently and so rapidly that we need to be very, very flexible with our thought process and an approach to doing business in these times.
Yeah, I think that's awesome advice. And also, given our time limits, I think we've covered a fair amount of ground. So with that, I'm going to wrap up and hand it back to Isha.